What is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? As urged, by the way, to follow when under testimony in a court of law? Well, it strikes me that this is what we probably may be hinting toward or more. When we say something about an object, let's say a car, will we say, well, that's a car? And we hope that that's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Same for like a rock. We say, well, that's a rock, and there's really no question. But when it comes to people, seems to me it is much more complex. And then it becomes very hard, I think, to say, well, that's not just a person, but the attributes of a person then being much harder to describe in truth, nothing but the truth, and all the truth terms. Now, how can this be? Yes, how can we have such a split then between describing people versus what we call objects or inanimate objects? How can that be? Well, this is my thought. It has a lot to do with the terms of free will and determinism, a topic that's not palatable to many, perhaps. But don't they say the truth shall set you free in a way if it's all the truth? And there lies the rub, I think. Why are we urged to tell the truth? What is that phrase again? The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Doesn't that mean all truth, not part truth and part inaccuracies? How can we say a truth and inaccuracy in the same word, in fact? When we say something is a rock, well, it's a rock, right? And we say this then, I believe, to be the core of it. That there are two things we say when we say something is. We say what it is as to its molecular structure right now. Let's say it's a rock, or it's a human being. It's a composite of cells, molecules, chemicals even, or superstructured. You can call them bones, parts of the body. So we're describing actually the physicality. But there's another aspect completely in each word, whether it's an inanimate object or a human being, I believe. And this is what gets us into so much hot water, especially thus even as per in a court of law, or in life in general. We say, so-and-so is, they're a person, and we say they're impacting on us in a certain way, but what about how they got that way, and what is their potential for change in the future? Who will they be tomorrow or not? In other words, how did they get that way? Was it by spontaneous combustion? No. But free will kind of says yes. And what about the prognosis for the future? Free will says, well, anything's possible by willpower or hard work, wishful thinking. But can a car do that? Can a rock do that? No. It's set in stone per some fashion by the laws of nature, even storms. They follow the laws of nature, but we humans, I think, all too often don't want to think we have to follow the laws of nature too. That's kind of frightening, because the laws of nature might say we're going to be stuck forever, or feel this pain for a while, or that pain could happen in the future, and there might not be too much we can do about it, but in terms of how we frame it in our mind, or accept it, as you might think. Yes, often I think we can't figure out or accept that maybe pain can happen in the future, but the worst of pain is if you can't accept it or you blame yourself, as if you could have done differently. That's part of, I think, the first step of Alcoholics Anonymous, to realize your impotence, you're not omnipotent. And the spiritual element being in play there then, often not in, quote, conventional therapy. The first step in this AA therapy, thus, is to realize you're finite, you're limited. You're not a, quote, God. You're under the laws of cause and effect. You don't have free will. As unpalatable as that sounds, to dodge around that issue is probably to dodge. So to recap and summarize and clarify, I think to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the nothing but the truth about people, not objects per se, inanimate objects, is to say not only what is right now on a molecular structure or how it impacts other molecular structures, including other human beings, if you wanted to put it that way. But how did it get that way, and what will it be tomorrow, and why or why not? What are the constraints thus? Are the constraints and the originators limitless? Or did they follow the laws of nature to begin with and always will? You might say thus, can we improve limitlessly, or are we constrained? And where did a person come from and why? Was it because what you put in the recipe that makes the cake or not as to your desires? Or can that cake be whatever it desires without what went into it? We're cakes, like anything else in life that we call a cake or an object, I think. To deny that is to, quote, believe we're gods. And isn't that what the Christian scriptures, amongst other scriptures probably, say is blasphemy? To equate ourselves with a God with something limitless, something all-powerful, something that is not defined by the laws of nature, something that has, quote, in a way, free will. Of course, I'm not going to name names, but there are people who state they believe in determinism, but they kind of don't believe it applies to themselves as to how they got their knowledge and as per who they are now. They kind of, I believe, think they are self-made men or pulled themselves up by their bootstraps in contradistinction to the play of determinism that they somehow in the back of their minds exempt themselves from. And that rubs some people the wrong way, I think. Hence, they want the baby with the bathwater. They want to believe that some people perhaps are determined, but they're not. That they have free will, but other people don't. That's an interesting conclusion and paradox, I think, that is inaccurate. That, I believe, is why the courts say you must tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about people. In other words, for the trillionth time or third or fourth time maybe, that we view what is not only on a molecular structure and its impact upon others, other objects, inanimate or other, people, our, quote, environmental degradation, but how did it get that way? By the laws of nature or not? And are we constrained in the future as to who we can be or can't be by the laws of nature or not? That's my view in a nutshell here.